the day. Again, read just 3 or 4 chapters a day. It's kind of like when you eat. If you go out to a buffet and you just, take those little plates, and you pile it about this high, well, by the time you get through it, first of all, you haven't eaten it all, right? Can't do that. But you haven't enjoyed the flavor of each part of the meal. And so what we need to do when we do those 3 or 4 verses, just stop and enjoy that portion of the Scriptures that you have read. And little by little, God will use it to change you. You learn from God's manual, the Bible, and you learn from God's model, Jesus. There's a leadership learning model that has 4 stages to it. And the first stage says, watch me. Whenever you want to help someone learn something new, you don't kind of set them on their own and say, go for it, hope it's a success. What you do is you say to them, let's do it together. Watch me do it. Let me show you how it's done. Jesus, who is my model for how to live life to the fullest, says to me, watch me. As the Bible describes the life of Jesus, I see the manual put into action by the model. And by watching Jesus' interactions and experience, I learn how to live the good life, and I see that it's a practical thing to do. Jesus is the model for God's manual. John 1:1-5 says this, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through Him, through Jesus. And apart from Him, nothing came into being and has come into being. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. You learn from the manual, you learn from the model, and then you learn from each other. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, said Paul, whatever is good, of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell in these things. Now, hear this. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. What Paul is saying to you and to me is, I've learned from the manual and the model, and now you can see what I've learned in the actions of my life. You can be such a help to other people as they are seeking to discover who they really are. You see, as you grow in faith, you can help others grow in faith. Now, I need to be real honest here. And God is going to hold you and me to responsibility for this. I can either help people grow in faith, or I can hurt them in their growth in faith, depending on how I am living what I have learned from the manual and the model. Either way, people around me learn about what the Christian faith is, good or bad. So here's my goal. Jesus we proclaim, said Paul, warning everyone and teaching everyone with all wisdom, that we may present everyone pure in Christ. For this I toil, struggling with all my energy, that He powerfully works within me. Isn't that a great verse? For this I toil. But it's Christ. It's Christ who works in me and through me to give the effect. Wait a second. Wasn't that what you learned in the Vacation Bible School? I can do everything through Him who gives me the strength. It is God's power working in you that helps you to do what He wants you to do and to be the witness from whom others can learn. And so the first part of God's pattern for discovering the real you is to learn. And the second part is to put what you've learned into action. James says this in his letter, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is a person who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But the person who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, he will be blessed in what he does." Do you remember that leadership model I mentioned just a few minutes ago? I said that the first step in the model was, watch me. Listen to the last 3 steps. Do it with me. Let me watch you do it. Go do it yourself. You learn and then you do. You learn and you put what you've learned into action. Steps 2 and 3, you're under kind of supervision. I don't know if you've thought of it before, but that's what the church is about. We, in a sense, are supervisors of each other. We are encouragers of each other. We are there to help people as they learn to test out what they've learned and to put it into action. In a sense, we're the learning ground for people before they go out there. By the way, when they go out there and they get battered and bruised, we're the place where people can come back to be supported, encouraged, and dusted off and helped to continue in their growth as they go back out into the world. You see, this is why God gave us the church. And this is where we have to do our practicing. Because it's safe here. It's safe to practice what we have learned. Learn, act, and reflect. This process of discovering the real you is a continuous process. It's a journey, not a destination. And so you need to be asking yourself all along the journey, what do I need to do to continue my growth? What do I need to do? What do I need to learn in order to become that real person that God created me to be? And again, this is why God gave us our community. This is why God gave us the church. So that we can reflect together. You know, there's a saying that is more true than I'd like to admit. It says, you want to know the areas in your life that in which you need to grow? Ask your spouse. But you see, that's truer than we think. Our spouses generally will be honest with us. We may not like it, but they'll generally be honest with us. But you know, we can also ask our brothers and sisters in Christ. Because we live with them, we interact with them, we study together with them. And they can help point out where we need to grow. Areas that we need to grow in are such things like our spiritual disciplines. Spiritual disciplines help us to keep our relationship with God in good working order. And they even help us to develop intimacy with God and with each other. And then we need to be reflecting on our character. Who it is, how we interact with people. Are we always people of anger? Are we honest in our dealings with people? Are we people of integrity? These are all things that we can continually be growing in. And they are part of what God uses us to become the real us. He wants us to be people of peace, people of integrity. He wants us to be people who are filled with love and joy and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control.